It's Friday. Friday. Oh, 1 minute. I think I'm... Friday. I feel like my mic is a little hot today. It is Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Friday, March the 8th, 2024, 2:12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name's Dave Mcrae, coming to you live from the Voice Man Studios in Toronto, Canada. This is episode 246 of Mcrae Live. And we have a Halloween update for all of you. A Halloween update for all of you. Are you excited? Yeah. Do you want to talk Halloween? Yeah. We're going to talk Halloween today. We're going to talk Halloween today. What else is new? No. Welcome to the show, everybody. Episode 246 of Mcrae Live. And Halloween news. Of course, all you rabid Halloween fans, for which I am one. Halloween news dropped today. A little bit of news. Nothing crazy, but still something. And, something that will give all of us fans something to speculate on, to theorize about, to... dissect every little nook and cranny and intricate detail until we cannot dissect it any further and we all ruin the fun. That's just what we do. We and then it's like, what the hell am I looking at? I don't know. But yes, Halloween news today. And I thought I would quickly jump on. I have some time. So I thought I'd quickly jump on and talk about it and share my thoughts with all of you. So let's just jump right into it. This comes to us from Bloody Disgusting Today. Let me go over to the screen. Here we are. Halloween Miramax TV series will be a creative reset for the franchise. Here's the latest. So all of you out there that were really hoping for a Halloween 4 Part 2, a sequel to Halloween Resurrection, it ain't happening. It's never going to happen. It's not going to happen. This comes to us from Bloody Disgusting, and Bloody Disgusting says, let me just bring this up a little bit bigger for myself. We had learned this past October, this comes to us from John Squires, by the way. We had learned this past October that Miramax landed the TV rights to the Halloween franchise, joining forces with Malika Cod's Trancas International Films to bring Michael Myers to the small screen. Miramax will be developing and co-producing the Halloween saga's first ever TV series, and Miramax head Mark Helwig provides an update to Deadline this week. All right, so that's the original source, is to Deadline. I first saw it here on Bloody Disgusting. What can we expect from the Halloween TV series? What can we expect from the Halloween TV series, you ask? For starters, don't expect any kind of continuation to the storyline from David Gordon Green's Halloween trilogy. Much to, I'm sure, of the relief to a lot of people out there who obviously did not like the David Gordon Green trilogy, did not like how the David Gordon Green trilogy ended with Halloween Ends and the whole kit and caboodle. Nonetheless, this is what Mark Helwig had to say. The foundation of it is the original film. The John Carpenter movie, the characters of that film, and perhaps a group of characters that we haven't really focused on that much in recent film versions or even in a number of them, Helwig teases. It's a creative reset completely and going back to the original film, as opposed to spinning out of any of the more recent film adaptations. Helwig also notes, we're on a fast track. It's a big priority for us. We've had lots of exciting conversations in recent months with a number of really talented people, and I think we'll have a pretty good idea of what we're going to be doing very soon. We're hoping to lock down the creative team very soon. End quote. That comes from Mark Helwig, the head of Miramax. As a reminder, Miramax co-owns the Halloween film rights alongside Trancas. In other words, this new universe from Miramax and Trancas could potentially span film and television. 2022's Halloween Ends was the 13th installment in the Halloween franchise, which to date has never made its way onto the small screen. This one will be a big-time first. Stay tuned for more on Miramax and Trancas' plans for the Halloween franchise. And that is it. So, ladies and germs, how do you feel about this? I mean, what are you thinking? How are you feeling? All you Halloween nuts out there. And again, for which I am one, we're getting sweaty here today as Halloween. Yeah, Halloween, woohoo! It's just what we do here. There's some people out there that hate when I do that because they think I'm making fun of them. Like, I'm making fun of all of us. We're all crazy. I mean, I'm the one here live on a Friday afternoon talking about it. I'm crazy. But no, look, I mean, I'm a Halloween nerd too. So, but what do you guys think? Like, I mean, so there's been a lot of speculation, of course. Dwight H. Little, the director of Halloween 4, came out recently and said, hey, you know what? I had pitched an idea. Now, we don't know when he did this. Some speculate, well, it has to be recent. I mean, he must have done it recently. Why would he, And I'm like, well, maybe not. I don't think it was quite clear on when Dwight H. Little pitched his Halloween 4 Part 2 idea. But if you followed me for any length of time, I mean, I've been talking about this I've been talking about that on the channel. That ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. I've always thought there's a possibility if they wanted to go the anthology route that maybe you see that in like a TV series or something, like one season or something like that. Like a what if kind of scenario. However, that doesn't look like it's going to happen. So Mark Helwig, head of Miramax, says we are using again, they're going back to the original. Exactly. I mean, it feels like deja vu. I mean, I could have sworn I'm like, this time 7 years ago, we're erasing all this thing. We're going back to the original. So it sounds like that's what they're doing again. Only this time it's for television. And really, there's not a lot that's being said here. But the interesting thing that I found is when Mark Helwig said this part here, of course. He says the foundation of it is the original film, the John Carpenter movie. All right, there it is there. The characters of that film and perhaps a group of characters that we haven't really focused on that much in recent film versions, or even in a number of them. So here's the thing. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be speculating on this. And the way I look at it is sort of like, what I take from this, how I am interpreting this is this. We're going back to the original. We're going back to baseline. We're going back to square one. And everything in that movie is canon. So that's Brackett, that's Linda, that's Annie, that's Bob, that's Lori and Tommy and Lindsay and Marion Chambers and Dr. Loomis and Michael's parents and, the Myers house, how the Myers house looked. Everything, the set decoration, the characters, everything in that movie is canon, right? Even, Ben Tramer is canon. Charlie Bowles is canon. I don't interpret what he said there as, and we're going to, so the original film is where we're going to start, but we're going to cherry pick some characters from the franchise that haven't gotten much love in some of the movies, like your Jamie Lloyds or your Rachel Carruthers or your fuck off Wade, all the, no. Those are, they ain't, that's done. It's over. It's gone. It's over. It's over. They're not that. I interpret, now maybe I'm wrong, but I interpret this as characters within that first movie that may not have got a lot of love in recent film adaptations, right? So maybe it's Brackett, right? Because again, although Brackett got a lot of love in the Rob Zombie films, he's a character that within the canonical timeline of that first movie, we don't know much about him, right? I mean, he was in the first movie. He's barely in Halloween 2, which isn't canon now. But I'm just saying he's barely in that. And then he was barely in Halloween Kills, and he gets killed. So, I mean, maybe that's a character that you could explore. Michael's parents, you could explore that. Where is this set? Is this set in 1978? Are we starting in 1963? Are they doing something where it's like a prequel series where they build up to the 1978 original? Or are they starting with the 1978 original and it lives within that universe and then we continue on from there? So I'm not like, again, it's not quite clear on where we are in the timeline, just that the original film is canon. We're going back to that film. So yeah, again, right, not a lot of meat on the bone. There's really more questions than there are answers, but that's sort of how I interpret that. I don't interpret it as we're going to make the original canon and cherry pick characters from the franchise that have not received a lot of love and make them canon. Kind of like what Star Wars does, right? Oh yeah, all the legends, that's all. But you know what? Hey, Grand Admiral Thrawn, we'll just take him and we'll make him canon. And then we'll take... so I don't think they're going to do that. That would be just... That could get really messy and really quick and very confusing to the average moviegoer. So I think it's very clean. I take it at face value. Nope. The entire franchise is nope, except for that first movie. Again. So it's basically we're doing what we did 7 years ago. 7 years ago? 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Because it would have been 2017 when we got all that news about Jamie Lee Curtis coming back and all that. And when we found out, that they were erasing Halloween 2. And yeah, so basically we're going back to where we were in 2017, this time for television as opposed to movies. And Halloween 1 is canon again. But we don't know specifically necessarily where we're stemming off from. Right? Is it taking place in 1978? Are we starting in 1963? Because we could start in 1963. We could start in 1963, use Judith and Michael's parents and her boyfriend and whatever. We could start in 1963, not Halloween night 1963, but start in 1963. Again, it's a prequel, I guess. It kind of makes the most sense. Like, really, at the end of the day, and I think a lot of you Halloween fans would likely agree. I think at the end of the day, doing a prequel, so you're sort of building up to the, I don't know, is it? Or do they just expand on it? Do they just... It's interesting. It's interesting. And I'll jump over to the chat room here in a second and get your thoughts and answer your questions. But again, not a lot of meat on the bone, but it is new information. It is new information, which is why I wanted to jump on here. And that new information is basically we're starting over again with Halloween as is canon. And they're possibly going to focus and they're possibly going to focus on, let me see here, the Carpenter movie, the characters of that film. So again, the characters of that film. He says, right? The characters of that film. So, okay. And possibly, and perhaps a group of characters that we haven't really focused on that much in recent film versions or even in a number of them. So film versions. So I would say, yeah, it's tricky because there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of room that's left open to interpretation. But I can tell you right now, I do not think he means characters from other movies in the franchise, just at random. Like, oh, we'll bring in Freddy from, Halloween Resurrection. We'll bring in, not at all. I don't think, not at all. This is really focused heavily on that first movie and characters within that first movie, I believe, that haven't really received, a lot of love. Characters that you could flesh out more, like Marion Chambers, right? We could flesh her out more. Who is she? What's her relationship with Dr. Loomis like? Clearly, she's his nurse, but we only see her in the car in the opening of the movie. Now, again, I understand she's in Halloween 2, and at the very end, Michael Myers, get your ass over here. And she's kind of, she's spunky, and she's there, and she shows up, in the marshal's car, and but that's not canon. That never happened. It never happened. Halloween Kills, now, never happened. Right? In this new timeline now, it never happened. So we cannot, it gets really confusing. And it really is messy at the end of the day, which is part of the reason why I'm like, just end it. Stop this nonsense, you greedy bastards. But, but at the end of the day, right, there's just so many, but when we think of Marion Chambers, son of a bitch, hey, it's a business, right? When we think of Marion Chambers, and that first movie, well, we see her for 5 minutes. That's it. So that is a character that you could take and flesh out more within the confines of that new canon, right? Who else? Ben Tramer, right? Absolutely. Now, we know that he was, killed. But again, not canon. So that is somebody you could introduce. But again, depending on where you fall and where you land in terms of the timeline, is this 63? Is this 78? Is this just after 78? Is this 1980? Right? Maybe it's 1980 with that first movie canon, but it's now 1980. I mean, maybe that's the case, right? And we'll eventually find out. We will eventually find out. But until we know specifically where canonically as it relates to Halloween 1978, this new TV series is taking place. And let's not forget that the broader plan could be to have it span multiple times, right? I mean, maybe we start in 1963 and the first season is 1963, and then the second season jumps ahead to 1978, and we watch the lead up, and then we jump. I mean, who knows what the overall big plan is? And there's never any guarantees, because, you could do one season and it could, it could fail catastrophically, and then, well, insert, Price is Right fail sound here, and that's the end of it. I actually do have that on my board here, but I don't know. No, I don't have it. Anyways, time's passed. But I should have had it ready. But that's a possibility as well. But until we know that information, which we don't know that here, all we know is that Mark Helwig, head of Miramax, says, listen, we're working hard. We're fast tracking it. We've spoken to a lot of creative people, which is great. And the original, but it's a complete reset. A complete reset. Complete reset. So there is no Halloween 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever the case is. It's a complete reset. Fascinating. Which also tells me that maybe Halloween Season of the Witch is not what they're going to focus on at all. At least not yet. I find that interesting. Or maybe they'll turn it into a movie first. I don't know. I thought for sure that they may want to focus on Season of the Witch, but it doesn't look like they will. Or maybe they will. Maybe they actually, maybe they will. I take that back. Maybe they will, because if Halloween is just that first movie is canon, you could introduce Season of the Witch as long as it's not the same, like it's not a, it's not you're basically reintroducing the story of Silver Shamrock. Okay, so Halloween 3 doesn't exist. It never happened. Because, like I've always said, in my opinion, and I know people try to put a square peg into a round hole here, but at the end of the day, the original Halloween is a fictional movie in Halloween 3's universe. We see Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode on the TV. Okay, like it doesn't make any sense. So Halloween 3 and Halloween 1 can't coexist in the same universe unless you were to erase Halloween 3 as we know it, right? Put it over here. It's gone. Reintroduce the story so you can make it canon. But Halloween 3's story and all that doesn't exist. You're just basically reintroducing it so you can connect them. You could do that. As long as it doesn't lead to like Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Like you can't do that because then you watch Halloween 3 Season of the Witch and then you see Halloween on the TV and you're like, this is very confusing. But it wouldn't be a first for the Halloween franchise. But it doesn't look like that's what they're going to do. The original Halloween is canon and yeah, fascinating stuff. So anyway, again, not a lot of meat on the bone, more questions than answers. But what we know is a complete reset. 100%. All the movies are gone. I mean, they're not gone, but you know what I mean. In this new era, in this new timeline, in this television universe, all the movies are gone except for Halloween 1. And they want to focus on the characters from that movie and some characters, how I interpret it, from that movie that haven't got a lot of love in other installments. That's how I interpret it. I do not interpret it other characters from the franchise in general, because that doesn't make any sense for what you just said. So anyways, I mean, I'm ready to be proven wrong, but that's how I interpreted it. So interesting stuff. Again, not a lot of meat on the bone, more questions than answers, but still something to give us Halloween fans to gnaw on and talk about and speculate on, and especially somebody like me who can talk about literally toothbrush bristles for 9 hours and 71 minutes if I had to. Okay, let's jump over to the chat room and see what all of you are saying. I know some super chats came in, so let me get those. Amadusius upgraded his channel membership to level number 2. Amazing. Thank you, Amadusius. Welcome. A reminder tonight, folks, for my level number 2 members, it is our third or fourth episode of Horror Movie Nights. So tonight at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for level number 2 members only, we are watching Thanksgiving. So if you want to get in on that and you're not a member here on the channel, hit that join button or click the link in the description and check it out. There's 2 levels and, help support the channel and you get access to exclusive shows and all that kind of stuff. So again, a reminder tonight to a reminder for my level number 2 members tonight. A lot of words in that. 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Horror Movie Nights. We're watching Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is on Netflix, so you can watch along with me, of course. Should be a lot of fun. Thank you, Amadusius, for doing that. I appreciate it. All right, super chat. Hang on. A member chat comes in from Brandon Collins. Thank you, Brandon. Says, I knew you were going live as soon as I saw the story. Halloween news, everyone. Let's frickin' go. Halloween! Yay! It's true. It's true. Hey, listen. I mean, again, I'm just busting everybody's balls, and I'm like, Halloween! I'm as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm good. I'm just as much a nerd as all you guys. So it's all in good fun. Andrew Stevens, one of our great mods here. Andrew Stevens says, sends in $10. Thank you, Andrew. And says, so with reading this article, it seems they're still wanting to rely on the original film. It does. If that's the case, why even make a series? Why not make something new? Here comes the Loomis prequel. I agree with you. At the end of the day, when I saw that, when I saw the headline that said a complete reset, I thought, oh, okay, all right, interesting, no surprise. And then, of course, I read that, except for the original. And it's like, yeah, interesting. Again, without knowing specifics and a little more details, like where specifically this is going to fall in terms of time frame. Is this a prequel series? Because you can do I've been adamantly against doing anything that is going to further demystify Michael. And I know that... Listen, this TV series, no matter what they do, will probably do that to some degree. Maybe not. But it's one of the reasons why I've been against, a prequel series with Dr. Loomis and Michael Myers in Smith's Grove. Like, I don't need to see that. Anything that's going to demystify him further. And look, it doesn't necessarily mean if you were to do that, if you were to do a prequel series with Myers and Loomis in Smith's Grove, and it's basically I spent 8 years trying to reach him and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up. It's basically those 15 years is the series. I mean, it doesn't mean that, everything will be demystified, but if you're not going to let us in on the nitty gritty to some degree, then what's the point of doing the series? So I've always been against that. And I've always been against a Loomis series without Michael, not because Michael needs to be in it, but because I don't think we need to know what Loomis was doing before Michael. And I think if you show that Loomis has other crazy child patients before Michael, it waters down Michael's impact. I've always believed that Loomis was just his career as a child psychiatrist was basically just sort of normal. It was pretty pedestrian. There wasn't anything crazy really in his life until Michael Myers came into his life, right? And it was the one kid that he couldn't explain. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, none of the 7 trying to... I never imagined that he was also dealing with, 5 other wild, crazy, mysterious, fucked up, psychotic kids as well. To the degree of a Myers. I never got that. And I think if you were to introduce that, it just waters down the impact of Myers. So I've always been against a Loomis series and, we don't need that. Everything we need to know about Loomis and Myers is really in that first movie. So having said that, what is this series going to be? But I acknowledge that a prequel to the 1978 film is highly likely, not for sure, but it has to be on the table. That had to have been, one of the options that Miramax was discussing with whoever they were talking to was, what could we do? Well, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And they're trying to figure out, sort of what is best for the franchise, what is going to set them up for the best probability of success, and how that is going to, come to fruition. So I don't know, or is it a series set in 1978? Remember, Halloween 2 is no longer canon. Halloween Kills and Halloween 18 and Halloween Ends are no longer canon in this television series timeline. They do not exist. So you could do a Halloween series that takes place right after the events of 1978's movie. And so it is another Halloween 2, if you will, for all intents and purposes. And that's the series. It takes place in 1978. Now, how they explain where Michael's been or where he's gone, I don't know. Maybe that's part of it, right? What happened after Loomis looked over and he sees that Myers is gone? What happened next? That might have been one of the questions that was asked again. And I'm sure it was asked from David Gordon Green and Danny McBride as well. But they're just going back to square one again, and they're doing what they've always done, which is instead of go this way, right? So we have Halloween. Halloween 2 went this way. Halloween H2O went over here. Halloween 18 went over here. So now they've gone back to base camp, and now they're going, okay, now we've gone this way, we've gone this way, we've gone this way. Now for the TV series, we're going to go this way. You know what I mean? That is really, I think, what is happening here, of course. I mean, that is what, the article says. But I don't necessarily think a prequel is on the table, although I'm sure it's been discussed. You could just start at the end of the original 78 film, and it's about what happened. Well, Halloween Kills tells us that Myers steps out onto the lawn, and there's a bunch of cops there. It's Michael Myers. It's Myers. It's Myers. It's him. You know what I mean? And they're all pointing their guns and whatever, and there's that cinematic tableau, and the camera's pulling back, and it cuts to black, and Halloween Kill. It's great. But now, that doesn't exist. That did not happen. So let's go all the way back to 1978, And he looks over the balcony and he's gone, right? So now what? Now what, right? I don't know. I mean, now what? I mean, again, we know in Kills that he went off and he ran into, well, he ran off. He ran into Lonnie, and then he made his way back to his house and he ran into the cops and all that kind of stuff. That's what I meant, right? But that's not canon anymore. So now what? And you could do a whole series set in 1978. Where does it go from there? It's interesting. Now, anytime you create anything, whether it's a series or a film that is a period piece, that ups your budget for sure. But this is Miramax, right? And so I don't think money is. I mean, not that money is no obstacle, but of course they have a lot of money. So if it was a strong story, a strong idea, and they were really excited about it, and they felt that this was a great direction to go in, then maybe that's what they do, right? And it's basically the series is from that night forward, and then what? A lot of great options, really, or a lot of interesting options, I will say. I don't think there's a lot of great ones. I'll say there's a lot of interesting options, in my opinion. Oh, a very generous super chat comes in from Lee the Machine Bowers, ladies and gentlemen. Lee the Machine Bowers sends in $49.99. Thank you, Lee. I really appreciate it, man. You're great support here on the channel. Really, really appreciate that. It says, Dave, my man, I wouldn't mind a TV series. Bring Michael back. Halloween 4 Part 2 is too late to do. Ellie Cornell is retired, and I don't think she'll come out of retirement to do Halloween 4 Part 2. Hopefully they give us something fresh with the TV series. Yeah, Ellie Cornell is retired. She runs, I think, a bed and breakfast somewhere on the East Coast. So I mean, listen, money talks. Would she come out of retirement to do something like that, a Halloween 4 Part 2? Maybe. It's not always about the money. Maybe if the money was good, and the story was really great, and her character was I mean, look, there's many things that an actor will look at. Money's a factor, but it's not the only factor. There's a lot of things that an actor will look at, especially a retired actor. Oh, I got to come out of it. And maybe she doesn't give a shit. She doesn't care. I mean, Ellie Cornell didn't have a, thriving, huge acting career. I mean, she was an actor for a time, and she did it, and she had fun, and she had a good time, and she retired, and she could be perfectly happy just running her. No, I'm good, man. I got my own business. I'm good. Like I'm fine. Like, we're human beings, and we like to do other things in life, and this is what I'm doing now. That could be the case too. But yeah, a Halloween 4 Part 2. That doesn't look like that's what's going to happen here. Not that I ever thought there was ever a high probability that it was going to. But I know that there are a lot of Halloween fans out there that I think were really holding out hope, or really thought that it could have been. I think a TV, like I said, Halloween 4 Part 2, the only way that I see that ever being a thing is if the TV series was an anthology series. And for whatever reason, the shtick, the gimmick of this anthology series was to do a bunch of what-if things as it relates to the Halloween franchise. So you do a Halloween 4 Part 2. That's season 1, 5 episodes, right? You do a Halloween sequel to Resurrection. That's season 2. You do a Halloween 3 series, or not a series, but a season, right? That's season 3. You know what I mean? Like, it's what-if, and it's really, for Halloween fans, and that's really not, I don't see it happening at all. And this is not evidence of that possibility at all. So interesting stuff. Eddie Chase sends in $10. Thank you, Eddie. Says, ever been sequel to franchise that got remade, a la Hope for H5 for Part 2. It'd be cool, but that would mean for producers to say they effed up. No, this Halloween 4 Part 2 will have to settle for a fan film, sadly. Yeah, guys, look, there's not going to be a Halloween 4 Part 2. It's not going to happen. It's fun to speculate about. I think, in retrospect, again, looking at where we are with the Halloween franchise, the the sort of the pulse of the industry in terms of nostalgia and reboots, and what's old is new again. If they had never made another Halloween movie, and I think the Halloween series has 3 great endings. You've got the original, which is the classic, which is the most mysterious, and it's that whole movie has a beginning, middle, and an end. It's got an arc in it. Laurie, she doesn't believe in the boogeyman. At the end, she's like, it was the boogeyman. As a matter of fact, it was. And she believes and everything. It's got a great ending. He's gone. That was the whole point. He was not gone at the end of that movie to set up a sequel. That wasn't he was gone to bring the message of the movie home. It's a great ending. But if you want to continue, you've got Halloween 2. So you have the mysterious, ambiguous ending of Halloween 1. You've got the good, happy ending of Halloween 2. He was defeated. He died. He burns to a crisp there. And Laurie goes off to the next town, presumably to get help at a hospital. Her parents would probably show up, and she lives a happy life after that. And then you have the full circle, evil never dies, evil wins ending of Halloween 4. Right? There she is at the top of the stairs, the little girl in the clown costume. She's 7 years old. There she is. Oh my God. And Loomis, no, he was going to shoot her. He was going to shoot that little girl. And there it is, full circle. It comes full circle. She's standing there at the top with the scissors in her hand, having just stabbed her foster mother, presumably at that time to death. Of course, Halloween 5 says they survived, but we don't know that at that time. Stabbed her foster mother to death. And Loomis, no, it just cuts to black, roll credits in this weird sort of ominous kind of soundscape. It's fantastic. If there had never been another Halloween movie after that, like, I mean, literally never. No 5, no 6, no H2O, no Resurrection, no Rob Zombie films, no David Gordon Green trilogy. If there had never been another Halloween movie, and Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, was the last Halloween movie ever, 1988, that was it. If the entertainment industry had still gone in the same trajectory, and there's no reason to think that it would not have, where nostalgia was hip and hot again, and reboots and requels and remakes and, alternate sequels and whatever, then I think there would have been a huge, dare I even say, likely scenario where we would have gotten a Halloween 4 Part 2. Of course, it would not have been called Halloween 4 Part 2. It probably would have just been called Halloween 5 or Halloween Returns or something. And it is a direct sequel to Halloween 4, and you bring back Danielle Harris, and you bring back, if she was retired, maybe you hopefully you get Ellie Cornell, and there you have it. But now, this late in the game, no. It's not going to happen, unfortunately, for those who really want it. Thank you, Eddie. Appreciate it. Anthony Stanfield sends in $5. Thank you, Anthony. He says, hey, Dave, do you think that this TV series will make Halloween more Scream-ish? I don't know if I like the idea. Maybe it'll grow on me. Do you mean like Screamish, like the Scream television series? I haven't seen the Scream TV series. Never watched an episode. I know what The Mask looks like, but I've never watched an episode. Scream like in what way? Like sort of self-aware, sort of spoof-ish. I always say spoof-ish because Scream is not a spoof, but it's got some spoof-ish things. It's not quite a spoof, but it's spoof-ish, self-aware. You know what I mean? It's kind of got, you have Wes Craven in the original Scream dressed in a Freddy Krueger sweater as the janitor of the high school with a name tag Fred. Okay. I'm just saying there's spoof-ish elements. But yeah, I don't know. I don't imagine so. I don't think it's going to be, if you're worried it's going to be sort of horror light, like Scream is really horror light. I know in Scream 5 and 6, they've tried to, make it a little more, darker and more bloodier. I guess within the confines of a Scream movie. But when I watched Scream 5 and 6, it was Scream. And that's not bad. I'm just saying, I didn't watch 5 and 6 and was like, whoa, they've really turned a corner here. No, I didn't feel that. I don't think you have to worry about Halloween sort of watering it down or going PG. I don't think they're going to do that. if that's what you mean. Brandon Collins sends in $5, says, I'd bet real money that it takes place between 63 and 78. Oh, real money on the table, folks. This would allow them to do a Michael anthology series. Allow them to do an anthology series and circle back to Michael from time to time. It's not a bad idea, Brandon, it's not. And as we know, in 1963, what else happened? The Charlie Bowles story. And if you follow me for any length of time, I'm a huge proponent of tackling Charlie Bowles. That's a character that we know nothing about. All we know is, I remember over in Russellville about 15 years ago, old Charlie Bowles. One night he went out to the garage to grab himself a hacksaw. And then he went back into the house. He kissed his wife and his 2 children goodbye. And then he proceeded to what? God damn it, Dr. Loomis, you interrupted. You proceeded to what? So we don't know. We don't know, right? And what's fascinating, and we've talked about this, the very first episode of One Good Scare, which is a level 2 member only show here on my channel, the Halloween only show where we talk about Halloween and we don't have to feel guilty about talking about the same things over and over again. That first episode of One Good Scare was really good. We talked a lot about the Charlie Bowles idea and sort of fleshed out kind of a couple of different directions that they could go in with that. So, and Brandon, you've been following this channel for years, so you know that I'm a huge proponent of that. I actually wouldn't mind that at all. You can do I don't know if you could do an entire series about Charlie Bowles, maybe, depending on how good it is, but you could certainly do, a few episodes or a season. There's something there to be said, because we don't know. How old is Charlie Bowles? He referred to him as, and I know I've said this many times, but he referred to him as old Charlie Bowles. But he went back into the kitchen and kissed his wife and his 2 children goodbye. Those 2 things kind of compete against each other for me in my brain, because he refers to him as old Charlie Bowles. So I'm thinking, okay, he's an old man, that old man down the street, old Charlie Bowles. Yet 15 years ago, he kissed his wife and his 2 children goodbye. So I'm thinking, well, his wife is like 35. His kids are probably like 7 and 10. Do you know what I mean? Like that, like saying it like that makes me think he's a young dad with 2 kids and a young wife. So we really don't know. Or is he just referring to old Charlie Bowles as an endearing term? That old Charlie Bowles. I don't know. There's something to be said there. And I'm telling you, I find it interesting. And I wouldn't be against that. But you may be right. Maybe that is what they're planning to do. Who knows? It's an interesting theory for sure. Very interesting theory. Okay. Hang on a sec here. I know some more came in, so make sure I get them. Hang on. I'm just going back here. Oh, geez, a bunch of them came in. 1 second, folks. Okay. We're going down to Michael Thorne. Thank you, Michael, for sending in $9.99. I appreciate it. It says season 1 should be about Lester the dog. It should be. I agree. An entire season, 14 episode season, 3 hours long an episode. Starting at his birth and ending with him being adopted by the Wallaces. I bet fans would eat that up. You know what's funny is that you could totally do a little subplot with that and fans would totally eat it up. And then NECA would have to release a Lester the dog figure. They'd have to do it. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Happy Sanjo sends in $5. Thank you. Happy says, they lost me with the back to the original. This trend of let's just go back to the basics, the beginning, is so creatively bankrupt and disappointed. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I do. But at the end of the day, it's because it's safe. And they don't want to rattle the feathers too much. It's one of the reasons, folks. Again, I don't say this because I'm a hater of the... Listen, if you follow me for any length of time, you know how much of a big Halloween fan I am. And even though I don't like a lot of the sequels, I'm a Halloween fan. I like anything Halloween. I will sit and watch a 5-hour BTS of Halloween 5. You know what I mean? Or Halloween Resurrection. I love Halloween. I love the character. I don't love all the movies, right? But I love Halloween. And at the end of the day, I think to do something like, I've said many times, right, that that idea that Tony Michael and I had about setting it in the 50s, like a film noir thing. And so it's like 1956 or something like that. It's like, before the 60s, before the sexual revolution, still very much Leave It to Beaver, nuclear family, families actually ate dinner together kind of era, right? And Loomis is not a psychiatrist. He's a detective from the big city of Chicago, and he's got to be brought into the little town of Haddonfield, Illinois, to investigate a string of murders and all that kind of stuff. And Michael and Judith are maybe like only a year or two apart, and they're in high school together in the 50s. So you got like, the Letterman jackets and the roller skates and the pep rallies. And that to me interests me. Unfortunately, and I've said this from the get-go, it's too much of a risk. It's too much of a risk. It's why they go back to the original. Now, again, to be fair, we don't know what they're going to do. They're going back to the original. We know the original film is canon. So again, let's pretend it's 2017 here. They're going back to the original. We know the original film is canon, but where they go from there and what they do, I don't know. It's anybody's game. Not really sure, but I hear you. Happy. I do. Andrew Stevens sends another $10. Thank you, Andrew. Says, Miramax. So what makes Michael so mystique? What happened in those 15 years? Has Michael ever took a shit when he wasn't on the screen? Let's make 5 seasons, 10 episodes to explain it all. I hear what you're saying. And that's part of the reason why, folks, I don't want there to be anything more Halloween. That's what I was going to say a few moments ago. I'm not a Halloween hater. I'm a huge Halloween fan, but I know when it's time to let it go. But box office dollars, $500 million at the worldwide box office between the 3 David Gordon Green movies, says otherwise. It doesn't matter. This is show business. And as long as we keep supporting, they will keep making. And that's what it's all about. And so, but I agree. I mean, I'm okay if we don't get anything Michael for a long time. And I say that because I am a fan. I say that because as a fan, I'm content. It's like having a really great meal, right? When you have like a really great meal and the waitress or the waiter, comes by and is like, oh, great. So any dessert for you guys? Or, and you're like, no, I'm good. Like, I mean, sure, I could order a big piece of cake or whatever, but then I'm just I'm going to feel like shit afterwards. I'm going to be like, I'm saying, no, I'm good. We've all done that, right? We're like, no, I'm good. You feel content. You feel satisfied. And that's kind of how I feel about the Halloween franchise. I feel satisfied. I have the good movies. I have the bad movies. I have the ugly movies. I have 13 frickin' movies, 12 of them Myers. I mean, I'm okay. I don't need to start over again this quickly. Like I'm like, can we at least maybe wait till 2028 for the 50th? And don't fool yourself. There will be something for 2028, regardless of what they do in between now and then. But I, as a fan, as a huge Halloween fan that has spent the last 7 years on this channel dissecting and analyzing and talking with all of you, as a Halloween fan, I feel like I want a chance to miss it. I want a chance to just kind of go, oh, yeah, I could. But that's not the case. Why are they fast tracking? Because they want to strike while the iron's hot. That's show business, folks. And it becomes about the bottom line. And listen, if I was in their position, I would be thinking about and making the same decisions, because that's what you do. You just hope that they take it seriously and they hire the right people to be able to deliver on the quality as well. And going back to the original film again, yeah, I get it. Feels like deja vu, right? We've taken a step back and here we are, again, it's like 2017 all over again. But now we're going over here. But we don't know what that is yet. You see, in 2017, we knew it was a movie. We knew that Jamie Lee Curtis was on board. We got information that Nick Castle was coming back. But 2024 is not done yet, folks. This is just the beginning. So throughout the remainder of 2024, there will be more news that will drop, and we will absolutely find out when it's going to be taking place, where it's going to be taking place, what is the structure of sort of what they're going to do. That's coming. That's coming. But until then, we can just speculate on the different directions that they could go in and the pros and cons to them and what that means and sort of what we would like to see. But once it comes out that, okay, this is what they're doing, this is where it's going to be set, here are the characters they want to focus on. Until then, we're speculating. But when that happens, it's going to be another bumpy ride oh God, what's her face? Betty Davis said. Let me scroll down here and get Lee the Machine Bowers fires in another $9.99. Thank you, Lee, and says, we getting both Crystal Lake TV series by A24, which is going to Peacock. That's right. Now we're getting a Halloween TV series, which streaming site is it going to be on? I imagine it will probably be Peacock, although I don't know. Was it? Do we know that information already? We may know that information. I'm not entirely sure yet, although we may not. But definitely, yeah, the Crystal Lake series, again, I mean, that sort of got sidelined because of the writer strike and the actor strike. So, but I'm looking forward. Now, that we know is a prequel. We know that information. That is a prequel series to the original Friday the 13th film. So we definitely know that. And that kind of information as it relates to this Halloween TV series is definitely coming. It's definitely coming. Steve McCoy sends in $5. Thank you, Steve. Says, haven't made a live stream in a while. Loved your EVP reveal show. Chilling recording. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm always trying to do different things here on the channel, but things that still relate, to horror or, movies or pop culture or something, because, we can only talk about Halloween so much. But today was a good day to jump on because there was actually new Halloween news with new information. So that's why I'm here doing episode 246 on Halloween, which is always, listen, Halloween will always be the anchor will always be the anchor of this channel. But it's always fun to branch out and talk about other things, of course. So I'm really glad that you enjoyed that. It's done well. Yeah, no, it seems that I've gotten really good feedback on that episode. So thank you. I appreciate that. And then we got Mark Striano, man, something like that. Thank you, Mark, who's a great member here on the channel. Says, if it does take place between 1963 and 1978, hopefully they'll do it without overthinking things. Well, yeah, I mean, I just feel that if it takes place between 1963 and 1978, you run the risk of demystifying Myers. If anybody from Miramax, which is highly unlikely, but if anybody from Miramax, if anybody in a position of power right now is watching this stream live or watching after the fact, whatever you do, just do your best to not demystify Myers. Now, it is unrealistic to expect, I mean, I understand that you have to build a narrative here. You have to build a story. And there's certain things we have to discover or know more about. I get it. Or what's the point, right? But the foundation, the reason why Michael Myers is arguably cooler than Freddy and Jason and Pinhead and Chucky and Leprechaun, whether fans realize this or not, whether studios realize this or not, it is because, whether you realize this consciously, I should say, or not, you may know this subconsciously, is because of the mystique and the enigma that surrounds the character of Michael Myers, the mystery, thinking that we're about that we're just, movies and stories that are created to make us think that we're about to find out the answer to everything, but we never do. It's a treasure hunt where you never find the treasure, but it's the journey of thinking you're on the verge of discovering it. That fans get lost in. It's the mystique, the mystery, the enigma, the aura about Myers. What is he? Why is he the way he is? But how does it, and then you got people like me jumping on here, with a big, bulletin board and push pins and red string, and we're analyzing this and doing deep dives of stuff that really doesn't need deep dives, but people tune in because they're excited about it. They're sitting there going, it's like aliens and UFOs. I mean, really, at the end of the day, I do want to know if there's other life out there. But, I think at the end of the day, being lost in the mystery, being lost in the hunt, right? Being lost in the mystique of, are they, aren't they? Is there, isn't there? Is part of what makes the topic so fascinating, part of what makes those late night chats with your buddies so eerie and mysterious. You know what I mean? Are they out there? I don't know. What do you think? Oh, looking up to the sky. And the same can be said about Myers, right? When you watch Halloween Kills and great, poetic lines like, the more he kills, the more he transcends. What does that mean? What does that mean, damn it? Whereas if we got the answer, if we had the answer right on our tables. Well, this is what it means, ladies and gentlemen. Here's what it means. Here's what it means. Section A, paragraph B. It means that Michael Myers, well, then you lose that. You lose the. You lose that. You lose that, right? And that is part, not the only thing. Of course, you got the great music and the great score. It's a bunch of things that need to be firing on all cylinders. But at the end of the day, it is the mystique and the foundation for which I am on record here on this channel saying that I believe that has a shelf life. And the reason it has a shelf life is because, generally speaking, there is only so much you can do with a character or a series that is built on mystique without running into the inevitability of we need to expand this or we're just literally doing the same thing over and over and over again. And yeah, that's why it's okay when stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you just stop. You know what I'm saying? And so unfortunately, the character of Michael Myers was built on the foundation of everything I just talked about, but it was built on the foundation of one movie. Nobody thought it was going to become the highest grossing independent movie in motion picture history. It was a low budget $300,000 movie, right? A bunch of kids, when I say kids, they were late 20s, early 30s, a bunch of kids getting together, not that far removed from film school, wanting to do this, and they did, and it was a one-off. It was a 90-minute Twilight Zone Hitchcock ghost story kind of thing, and like I said, he's gone at the end of the movie not to set up a sequel. He's gone to bring the moral and the message of the whole movie home. Laurie has an arc in that movie. At the beginning of the movie, she doesn't believe in the boogeyman. Tommy, there's no such thing. At the end of the movie, she says, it was the boogeyman. It was the boogeyman. That's what she says. Not, was it the boogeyman or was that? No, that I understand that that's still out there, but that's not what she says. She says, it was the boogeyman. Or think of it like, it was the boogeyman. And then Dr. Loomis says, as a matter of fact, it was. And then he looks over and the boogeyman is gone. That's it. And that was the whole point. But it became the highest grossing horror movie, the highest grossing independent movie of all time. So naturally they make a sequel. And so, but the problem, the foundation, when you keep going back to the original as your foundation, you do run into this. So I don't know what they're going to do and what the longevity is. But yeah, the just understand, folks, that and listen, maybe some people are okay with this. Maybe some people are okay with it. But the more you do, listen, that's why, we were on the hey, with Halloween Ends, right? Corey Cunningham being choked, and what was there something transferred to him? They were dancing that line of, okay, we're going a little too far here. Yeah, because eventually you're going to run into that. There's only so much you can do if you want to play with the original intent of the Myers character. There's only so much bandwidth you have in terms of longevity with story, because eventually you're going to get to the point where like, okay, we're on season 3 here. I guess we have to introduce some voodoo. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, don't introduce voodoo. Well, we got to okay, not voodoo. What about some black magic? Well, that's kind of like voodoo. Well, yeah, but okay, what about crazy seances with weird skulls? Why are we doing this? Oh, because we've run out of ideas. Yep, that's a real possibility. And let's just hope that doesn't happen. Let's hope it doesn't happen. I'm just saying. Crazy stuff. All right. Oh, a bunch more super chats came in here, folks. Let me just get these. I want to make sure I'm getting them. Not missing them, of course. Lee the Machine Bauer sends another $9.99. Thank you, Lee. Really appreciate that. Says, imagine Michael enters the Fast and Furious world. He'll race against Vin Diesel in his station wagon. Who would win? All jokes aside, happy Friday, my friend. Thank you, Lee. Happy Friday to you as well. Who would win? Oh, I don't know. I think I got to go Vin Diesel on that one. But you never know with Michael. Yeah, look, you don't want the Halloween series to become, well, you don't want any series to become Fast and Furious territory. And that's where I feel the Monsterverse has gone with Godzilla X Kong. I mean, it just looks like a PS5 video game. Like I have I'll watch it when it comes to streaming, and I'm sure I will enjoy myself on just dumb fart popcorn fart fun. But it's way beyond anything that I really have a serious interest in anymore. And so hopefully that doesn't happen. Eddie Chase sends in $10. Thank you, Eddie. Says, can't we all agree that either new Halloween show should have new characters or alternate universe? Example, Laurie dies. Or it should be a miniseries about production development of Halloween 78. That'd be amazing. Yeah, those are interesting, Eddie. Those are interesting ideas. A miniseries about the production of Halloween 78, I don't think has broad general appeal. Remember, folks, and always remember this, Halloween fans, actually, it doesn't matter whatever property you're a fan of. But obviously we're talking about Halloween, so I will talk about Halloween. Halloween fans matter, right? We matter. And Malika Cod and Miramax and Trancas and Mark Helwig and whoever the creatives are that they bring in, yes, we matter. We Halloween fans matter, of course. But they are not just trying to appeal to us. Because in the big picture, we are very, very small. It feels big. It feels big in this bubble, but we're very small in the big picture. And Halloween 18 didn't become the highest grossing slasher movie in motion picture history because of Halloween fans. It became the highest grossing slasher in motion picture history because of Halloween fans and broader horror fans and general movie-going audiences that wanted to go see a horror movie at Halloween time, right? So it's all about appealing to a larger group. That is why you will often see in movie trailers so much that is shown. That's not for you. If it was marketed just for Halloween fans, right? I mean, all you would have to do is just show a black screen and you hear Michael breathing, and then you just see the title, Halloween. And we would be there, right? I'd be there. You'd be there. That's all we'd need. The 185 people that are watching right now, you would all be there for that. But not the general movie-going audience, right? Maybe not your wife or your best friend or your boss or your coworker. Nope. Right? They won't, because they need to see it. They need to see the carnage, and then that is why, not all the time, but that is why in a lot of cases you will see what feels like the whole movie in a trailer, because they're trying to appeal to everybody, trying to get everybody on board, or as many people on board as they can. They need to get your friend who's not excited about Halloween. What was that? Lame. They need to get the other people that need to see all the stuff, right? So, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. So going back to the basics, going back to that first film, and expanding off of that it's a safer choice than doing the two choices that you had mentioned. It is. At the end of the day, it's safer for a more broader appeal. So, and listen, again, as I said, we still don't know what they're going to do. We know they're going back to the original. We know they want to focus on some characters that haven't been focused on before. Okay. We know that all the characters within that movie are canon. Okay. And fair game. But we don't know where they're going in terms of timeline, right? Are they going back? Are they going forward? Are they staying in 78? We don't know. But we'll know soon. We'll know soon. Danny Dank sends in $5. Thank you, Danny. Says, the constant rebooting timelines is exhausting and shows this franchise doesn't value what came before it. I feel bad for the fans. Yeah, listen, I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be disappointed to hear this. And I get it. I totally understand it, man. I do. And, but what they decide to do, the creative direction they decide to go in, will be a real tell for a lot of people. Josh McKenna sends in $9.99. Thank you, Josh. Says, I remember you said your stepmom and stepdad didn't like you watching horror movies. That's true. How would they react to Terrifier? Could you picture traveling back in time and watching art in front of them? Oh my God, no, I can't. No. Horror in the 80s is laughable compared to the intensity and the carnage and the blood of a Terrifier film. No, I can't imagine that. That would be wild. That would be wild for sure. Thank you, Josh. Okay, I think I'm almost all caught up here. And then Harry Hagen, my man, Harry Hagen sends in $10. Great to see you, Harry. Thank you. Says, none of these franchises have a star actor like Jamie Lee Curtis. Closest may be Corey Feldman in Friday the 13th. I don't think people understand how important she is. That's why Danielle in an H4 Part 2 theatrically wouldn't work. I would say that's part of the reason. Yes. And also just the idea of just going back and rebooting it all, doing a Halloween to market that as a theatrical film would be next to impossible to the general movie-going audience. Again, we would understand it. But I remember when Halloween 18, I've told you this before, I remember when Halloween 18 was first announced. And of course, I was on here talking about it. We were doing all the big stuff. And I remember watching or reading the Facebook posts and things like that on sites like Bloody Disgusting and, Collider and MovieWeb, all the big sort of players in the space. And I remember there were a bunch of people even commenting on Bloody Disgusting's posts. So now you would think that if you're following Bloody Disgusting, you are at the very least a horror fan, not necessarily a Halloween fan. Remember, just because you're a horror fan doesn't mean you like all things horror. I'm a horror fan, doesn't mean I like everything horror, right? There are a lot of horror fans that love horror movies that like slasher movies that aren't that big on Michael Myers, and vice versa when it comes to like Jason or Freddy or, whatever the case is. I mean, I'm a horror fan. I couldn't give a frog's fat ass about Leprechaun. I think I maybe saw the first one like 30 years ago. I haven't seen any of the sequels. I don't care about Leprechaun. I've seen the first 3 Child's Plays and that's it. That's enough for me. I know enough about Chucky and because I'm a horror fan, I know enough to be able to speak about it. But just because you're a horror fan doesn't mean you like everything and anything, right? And so, like to your point, I mean, marketing would be very difficult because I remember on Bloody Disgusting's posts, Halloween 18, Jamie Lee Curtis is back. There were a lot of people that were saying, didn't she die in the last one? Didn't she die in that Busta Rhymes one? Didn't she like kiss her brother and like fall to her death? There were lots of horror fans saying that. So yeah, it's to suddenly do like a weird sort of thing and have a Halloween 4 Part 2 movie would be incredibly difficult to market to some horror fans, but certainly the average movie-going audience. They'd be like, huh? Didn't Michael die in the last one? What? What is this? It'd be tricky for sure. There's no doubt about it. But I agree with you. Going back to the original again and keeping it canon is some people are finding it a bit tiring. Hey, Tony Michael and I had a great idea, but it would be too much of a risk, unfortunately. Too much of a risk. Okay, I think I've got all the super chats. Let me just go over here and see. Let me go over here. Viewer activity. I got to go to my other page here, guys. Sorry about this. Hang on. We're loading. Why are we not loading here? There we go. Harry Hagan, Josh, Danny, Eddie. Yes. Okay, so I've got them all. So far, so good. All right, let me go back over to the chat room, and we'll get some non-super chat ones here. Let me see. Alley Girl says, our parents would have baptized us in holy water if Terrifier would have come out in the 80s. It's true. It's very true. Alex Shambach says, 100% agree, Harry. JLC made the series what it was. It is true. Yes, I agree that she was a huge part of that, for sure. At the same time, however, both Rob Zombie films, certainly that first movie, did all right. It did all right. And that didn't have Jamie Lee Curtis in it. I don't subscribe to the idea that you need Jamie Lee Curtis in it for it to be successful and good. No more than I subscribe to the idea that you need Neve Campbell in a Scream movie. And if there's anything that Scream's 6 showed us box office wise and hype wise, is that you don't need Neve Campbell. So I do not subscribe to that. What you need is a good story and a good movie. And Jamie Lee Curtis is far too old now to go back and play herself. So obviously this will be a recast of some sort. And just make a good story. Make a good story. That's it. Make something that makes sense canonically. Don't be afraid to go there. But as I've been saying, do not demystify Myers. You must preserve the integrity of the enigma of the foundation of the character, but also understand that in doing that, which is incredibly important, you do, in my opinion, have a shelf life. You have a shelf life. You can't. That's why Freddy and Jason theoretically can go on and on and on and on and on, because their characters were not built. That doesn't mean there isn't a certain amount of mystique around their characters in that, those early films, but it wasn't built around that. We know why Freddy was doing what he was doing. We know where Freddy comes from. We know why Jason's doing what he's doing. We know that he was a little boy that drowned in the lake, and now he's back to get his revenge because he apparently witnessed his mother get her head chopped off. Like, we know all this. It's not a mystery. It's not hush hush, right? We know his backstory. We don't know why Michael Myers snapped. We don't know why this 6-year-old child snapped. I mean, presumably, although maybe these are things they would explore in a TV series, because this could be on the horizon here, folks. But in that first movie, we presume, I mean, you look at the house, this cute little wartime home. Look at how his parents were dressed. This was middle America, middle-class family. His parents are well-dressed. Cute little kid, presumably was at school not like 10 hours earlier. Cute little Mikey Myers. I mean, who knows? We don't know. And that is part of why people love it. It's the mystery, the mystique, right? I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but it's so important and so true. And so, yeah, I mean, but I just, unless you do what Brandon Collins said, and maybe that first season is setting up, but then you go off and the next season is about Charlie Bowles, and then the next season about, whatever, and it all kind of comes back to, I don't know. It's kind of, it is anthology-like in that sense, but just doing a reboot, essentially, another Halloween. I mean, that's basically what I think they're describing here, for all intents and purposes, is that we're doing another Halloween 2. It's just going to be in television form, and, unless it's a prequel, of course, I guess that's, I don't know. It's interesting, folks. It's very interesting, and I appreciate you all chiming in as usual. I really do. All right, let me just see. I haven't missed any other super chats, I don't think. Harry was the last one, right? I believe Harry was the last one. Indeed. Let me see here. Scared Straight Productions says, kind of disappointed with the news, but I'll watch it. You remember when Danny Tanner took a shit on Stephanie's floor? I do remember when Danny Tanner took a shit on Stephanie's floor. There's the entire chat room now is like, what? What are you talking about? Well, yeah, but you see, and that's it. They know we're going to watch it, right? Look what you just said. I'm kind of disappointed, but I mean, I'll watch it. Of course you will, because you're a Halloween fan. And of course I will, because I'm a Halloween fan. Halloween fans will watch it. We're not the target. It's not us they need to get on board. I mean, it is us they need to get on board, of course. It's not that we don't matter. It's just that we're not the biggest players in the space, ironically. Let me see here. Scott McFarlane says, I'd love a prequel series from Michael's birth right up to the intro of H78, but including some of the 15 years in the asylum leading up to the patients roaming around with Loomis' car arrives. So Scott, let me ask you a question. Are you worried by doing that the mystique of Myers will be totally gone? Because in order to tell a series, those 15 years, you have to now pull back the curtain a bit and find out and see things that are only in your imagination. When Dr. Loomis says, I'm telling you, for 15 years, I saw him, sitting in a room, staring at a wall, not seeing the wall, looking past the wall, looking at this night, inhumanly patient, death, all that great stuff, right? And I spent 8 years trying to reach him and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil. I mean, you hearing that, you imagine, right? You can picture it in your mind. Wow, I wonder what that was like and all that kind of stuff. And there's a certain level of mystique and mystery, and that's kind of where I want it to stay, because I'm worried that if they do that and they show us that, it's not going to be what we imagined. That's not, it's like reading a book, right? One of the most powerful things about reading a book is you imagine it in your own mind. And if the author is incredibly, really descriptive, they can really paint a beautiful picture and you picture it in your own mind, right? And then you go watch the movie and you're watching somebody else's interpretation of the material. So one of the great things about keeping Myers and the enigma a mystery is that you imagine all those things that you were told about, right? You imagine those 15 years. You can picture what it was like. But if somebody comes along and shows you what they've always imagined and their interpretation of it, there is always that huge risk that you're going to watch and go, oh, it's kind of lame. And that's why I say, why even go there? Why even go there? Right? Money, 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 money. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, that is why. All right, what's the time here? Okay, we got a little bit of time. You got a little bit of time. Davey Deathray, what's going on, Davey Deathray, one of our great channel members here, says, yeah, everything that Loomis says about Michael is interesting. Watching it all unfold, though, not very interesting. Correct. Now, that doesn't mean it couldn't be interesting. The problem is sort of this. You put the cart before the horse, right? If there had never been a Loomis speech, right? I spent 8 years trying to reach him, then I was 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized like all that, and for 15 years sitting in a room staring at a wall, not seeing the wall, looking past the wall, looking like all the wonderful poetic dialogue that is Dr. Loomis, right? Even from Halloween 2, all the stuff he says in Halloween 2, and just all the poetic dialogue that comes from Loomis. If there had never been any of that, and we started in 63, and you built a story around that going forward and allowed us to watch it unfold in real time, not already being privy to already having it in our own minds, then yes, then it's interesting, right? I guess I could simplify this by saying it's the difference between something coming from a book and something not coming from a book, right? The probability is always very high that when something is adapted from a book and you've read the book and you love the book, that when you watch the movie, you're going to go, eh. Now, is it because the movie is garbage? Sometimes, but it's also because it's not necessarily that the movie is garbage or that the interpretation is crap. It's just not how you imagined it. I could watch that same movie having not read the book and been like, that fucking movie was great. And that's actually happened to me in my life. Maybe it's happened to you, where you go to watch a movie, one of you has read the book, loves the book, watches the movie and goes, it was okay. And then you watch it and you're like, I thought it was fucking fantastic. That's because you don't have any preconceived notions or ideas about, of having already imagined the story from a certain point of view, right? And certain details. And so, although Halloween was not adapted from a book, the book came later, and the book is completely different, by the way, in many cases. But because it was never adapted from anything, the poetic, mysterious dialogue that Loomis has, and the poetic and I got like 9 thoughts in my head. It happens, folks. Let me try this again. There we go. I just rewound myself. The poetic dialogue that Loomis says is acting like a book, right? You're imagining it in your own mind. Again, I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but it's really important to kind of remember that, because I think people don't think of these things consciously. They don't realize, oh yeah, that is kind of what's going on here. Because the backstory of Myers was built around the foundation of mystery, an enigma, the mysterious. That's why, right? Freddy and Jason, completely different. So Davy Death Ray, yeah, it's true. Like you always run that risk. So as much as fans think they want to see a Loomis backstory with Michael Myers and Smith's Grove, yes, as long as it's done the way you've always imagined it, right? Of course. But if somebody else, if it's not how you imagined, then what? So is the risk worth taking? Is the risk worth taking going back and doing a Halloween prequel story? Is the risk worth taking? Or do we just leave what happened in those 15 years to our imagination, like it's always been for over 45 years, and do something that continues it? Like another Halloween 2, but you're doing it in TV form. And maybe it all takes place in 78. Like, there's a lot of people that love that Halloween flashback and Halloween Kills. I like it too. I think it's the best part of the movie. And so many of us liked it so much, or many of us liked it so much, I should say, that it was not uncommon when that movie came out to be like, you know what? I actually wouldn't have mind seeing a whole movie set in 1970. Like, they did such a good job with recreating the Myers house and the set deck and the 70s look. They did such a good job at making you feel and believe that this was the same time frame, from the lighting to the everything, that people were like, I could have just sat here for 90 minutes and watched this unfold. So maybe that's what they do. Maybe they go back to 1978, which is what, that first movie is canon, and we just tell the story and we move along. And maybe the first season is 78, the second season is 79, the third season is 80. Maybe you do something like that. I don't know. And it's an open playing field, because none of the other Halloween movies exist. Maybe you bring back the brother sister arc. Maybe you do that. Just say you can't do it, right? I don't know. But going back and telling, basically by going back, for all intents and purposes, what you're doing, depending on how you handle it, you're basically telling how Myers became Myers. I mean, really at the end of the day, right? Again, for all intents and purposes. And I'm just somebody that just doesn't want to see that. But I hear you, man. You're not alone. There's a lot of people that would, Scott. There's a lot of people that would. Scott says, yeah, Dave, that's a great point. To be fair, takes the mystique away. I felt that happened a little when they showed James Jude Courtney's side face in the intro to Halloween 18. So what can they do to avoid that? I agree with you. I thought it was kind of unnecessary. Well, I gave sort of an example of what they could do. But unfortunately, it's one of those things where you just, again, I'm hesitating because I don't want to keep repeating myself, but we really have to understand that because of the foundation that Myers was built on, continuing a story and preserving the coolness and the mystique of the character has a shelf life. It does. It does. There's only so much you can do, which is why I think maybe starting from scratch, like my idea with Tony Michael, so you create a new foundation for Michael. That doesn't mean you destroy the mystique altogether, but you create a new foundation that gives you the wiggle room to not be so tied down to preserving the anonymity of his background. Do you know what I'm saying? You sort of, again, that doesn't mean you can't create some mystique around it, but right now, I mean, he's built on anonymity. So how do you make 10, like, that's why there's so many problems. Folks, that is why there's so many problems in the Halloween film series. Look, Jason, as shitty as those movies became, believe it or not, Jason X is in the same canonical timeline as the original Friday the 13th. They've never rebooted and said those movies don't exist outside of the remake in 2009. But you know what I'm saying. They never did that. A Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy's Dead is in the same timeline as A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984. Wild to think, because they're two completely different films, tone-wise, aesthetic-wise, Freddy-wise, but they're canon. Why is that? Why did they never feel the need to, okay, now let's pretend that 3 and 4 don't... Probably because there was never a need to go back and preserve. Now, Freddy, you could make that argument because I do think they need to go back and get back to, scary Freddy. They need to get back to scary. And like, how he was in part 1 and 2. But at the end of the day, there's always this bit with the Halloween franchise, there's always been this, and I totally get it. There's always been this fear of exposing too much of Myers. And when you do that, when you get to Halloween 6 or when you get to Resurrection or you deliver a Rob Zombies Part 2, it's like they throw their hands up in the air and go, oh God, now we've gone too far again and we got to start over, right? Because he's built on the foundation for which he is. And it always happens. They just take it too far. And that's why I think we just got to understand that if you want OG 78 Myers, that has a shelf life, man. That has a shelf life. Like, you can only deliver so much until you're right back where you started. And then we're reading another bloody disgusting article in 2030 about them going back to the original again and doing something else. I mean, it's just like this, that's why, yeah, I'm there. I would have loved to have seen something like a complete reboot where Halloween 78 is not canon. It doesn't exist, and it doesn't mean you throw out the integrity of the foundation, but you allow yourself more wiggle room to build something new and fresh where you're not so tied down to that original film. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Let me see. Super chat. Another generous super chat comes in from Lee, the Machine Bowers. Thank you, Lee. Says, gotta head out, Dave. Family emergency. Oh, I hope everything's okay. Catch the replay. Hope you have you say replay. Have a good day, everyone. And Dave, cheers. Happy Friday. Thank you, Lee. Thank you very much. Cheers to you as well. And I hope that family emergency is nothing too serious. Johnny T says, official Dave, I like the idea of different timelines. It would be the same concept of open world video game idea. Fans create their own individual timeline. Maybe. I don't think that's what they're going to do, but who knows? I'll be very curious to see what they do creatively. I'd be very cute. Very curious, I should say. My chair keeps squeaking. Let Aaron Click says, yeah, but Friday the 13th is still a sloppy canonical timeline. Well, so is Halloween. I didn't say they were good. I didn't say they were good, Aaron. That's why I said that, you can say what you want about them, but it's still canon, right? So I get what you're saying. Friday the 13th Part 2 is 5 years later, but styles somehow look about the same. Oops. The furthest out they should have said it was 2. Yeah. Oh no, for sure. I mean, look, they're low budget nonsense, and nobody ever could have foreseen something called the internet where everybody is scrutinizing everything down to the finest detail. The Friday the 13th timeline is very flawed. But they never felt the need to start over because Jason never got to a point where he was too much or going down a path that no longer preserved the character. Right? Whereas with Michael, as soon as Michael becomes too Jason, they start over. I mean, listen, if Halloween Ends was not the last film in the David Gordon Green film, and they just continued on, Halloween ends, Halloween began, and they just continued on with that version of Michael, there is no doubt in my mind that it would have gotten to the point where, I mean, he was all right. I mean, look at Halloween Kills, right? He's human, but he's taking bullets like it's nobody's business. Well, which is it? Right? I mean, they're still playing, I mean, they're playing fast and loose. Why are they playing fast and loose? Because they need, that's why they feel so tied down to preserving what that original foundation was that it pigeonholes them in future installments. That's why I think you need to get rid of the original and start a new foundation. And then, I don't mean get rid of the original, like, erase it off the face of the planet. I just mean it's done now. It's done. And just start fresh. Start something new. I mean, folks, say what you want about Rob Zombie's films, and you know that I am not a fan at all of the Rob Zombie Halloween movies. But, hey, he did his own thing. He started fresh. Now, there were certain things, of course, in that first Halloween movie that were definitely heavily inspired from the first John Carpenter film, and obviously the notes coming down from the Weinsteins and the whole thing. You can read about it. But certainly, I think really to get away. Now, again, I say this right now on Friday, March the 8th, 2024, because we know very little about what they're going to do, right? Again, there's more questions than there are answers. But as of right now, because I don't have all the information, right? At the end of the day, I don't see them at the end of the day, I think the best thing for the Halloween franchise is to not pick up with Halloween 78 canon. It's my favorite horror movie of all time. But without knowing more information about what they're planning on doing, this is how I feel about it. Because I feel like, but hey, fast forward a week from now, I could be on here a week later being like, oh, okay, all right, I'm listening. Right? I'm allowed to change my mind, of course. But as of right now, I empathize with all of you going, really? They're going back to the original again? And the original, okay, I guess, all right. You know what I mean? I hear you, because I'm kind of like, okay, all right. But we need more information. For sure. 100%. 100%. Michael King says, when Dave says folks, he sounds like Joe Biden. I sound like Joe Biden? Oh my, hey, listen, I've been saying folks long before Joe Biden was president. I've been saying folks since I was a kid, because I got my folks from Alf. Alf says folks. Sound like this. Hey folks, Dave Mcrae here. Where am I? What's going on? Halloween? That's not till October. Yeah. Okay. Folks. Sleepy Joe, as Donald Trump would call him. Sleepy Joe, sweetest. Let me just, okay, I've got all the super chats, correct? I believe I do. Yes, okay. Lee the Machine Bowers was the last one. All right. All right, well, listen. I'm going to wrap it up there because I have to rest my voice as well because I have a member-only stream tonight. And listen, hey, if you're not subscribed to the channel and you're new, make sure you subscribe, of course, because we're trying to get to 30,000, which would be amazing. Also, if you want to become a member on the channel and you want to get access to exclusive perks and things like that, maybe consider hitting that join button and checking it out. Tonight, just again, a reminder to my level 2 members at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tonight, we are watching Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is streaming on Netflix, so I hope you will all join me who are part of level number 2 and watch along with me. It's our 3rd or 4th episode of Horror Movie Nights. So yeah, just a reminder, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. But yeah, folks, that's going to do it for me on this episode of Mcrae Live. I really appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you, of course, to my channel members. Thank you to the super chats that came in today. Thank you to my moderators, Frank Riker, Tab of the Short, Darren Sands, Chris Baber, Cody Snyder, and Andrew Stevens. Thank you for doing what you do. And listen, if you're watching live or after the fact, make sure to jump into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts on this news. How do you feel about it? Are you excited about this news? Again, there's not a lot of meat on the bone here, but there's enough to get the conversation going. There's enough to start speculating and thinking about going back to the original again and making that canon, but everything else not. What characters do you think they're talking about? What characters do you think they want to explore? What characters do you want them to explore that maybe haven't gotten a lot of, a lot of time, a lot of screen time? Jump into the comment section and let me know your thoughts. I would really like to know. My name is Dave Mcrae. If you want to follow me on social media, you can. All my links are in the description. Check them out until your heart's content. And when your heart is content, check them out again. Yeah, that'll do it for me. I will be back very soon. Big Halloween news. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, folks, have a great rest of your Friday, and I will talk to you soon. Cheers.